Back in 2022, a major car company made a headline that many thought was a joke. They started charging drivers $18 a month just to use the heated seats that were already installed in the car. It wasn't a joke. And it wasn't an isolated case. These days, it seems like everything wants to be a subscription. We've entered the era of the subscription do-si-do, the dance where companies try to turn your possessions into permanent monthly bills. Why does everything have to be a monthly tribute now? And more importantly, how do we get our ownership back? Let's talk about it. Hi, thanks for dropping by. I'm CJ, and today we're talking about something that irks me just as much as it does you. The killing of you buy it, you own it, and how we got from a world where the stuff you bought was yours to a world where the things you buy end up as bills that never end. Back in the day, things used to be settled. Think back to the 80s and earlier, when you went to the store to buy a stereo, a camera, or even a set of wrenches. You'd walk in, hand over your cash, and walk out with a box. Inside, you usually got a manual that was thick enough to serve as a doorstop. Now you're lucky to get a pamphlet with a QR code. But the most important part of the entire transaction was that was it. Once the money changed hands, the relationship with the company was over. They had your money. You had the thing. It was settled. You could use it, fix it, lend it to your neighbor. You could sell it at a garage sale, or you could hit it with a hammer if it made you feel better. Damn, that sounds good right now. Anyway, it was yours. Period. But before we get too misty-eyed about the good old days, we have to admit there was one big exception: the telephone. You older folk remember that for decades, you didn't own these. You leased them from Ma Bell. You paid a monthly fee for the privilege of having one of these on your counter or wall because you weren't allowed to connect anything else to the network. We accepted it because we didn't have any choice. If you wanted a phone, that was the deal. But then came 1984 and the big breakup of AT&T's phone monopoly. Why? The lack of competition and inflated prices. As a result, you could suddenly buy a cordless phone or a novelty hamburger phone or one of those newfangled answering machines. Innovation exploded because the monthly tribute ended. Then came Adobe. Adobe didn't invent subscriptions, but they may be the company that convinced everyone else they could get away with them. For years, if you were a designer or a photographer, you bought a box of Photoshop. It was expensive, $600-700. But once you bought it, you could use it for years, decades, as long as the computer would load it. Then Adobe realized something that changed everything. They realized they didn't want to sell you a product once and maybe an upgrade every 2 to 3 years. No, they wanted to rent it to you forever. They officially moved to a subscription-only model in May 2013, something I railed about in my blog at the time. And they essentially held everyone's data hostage. If you stopped paying, your relationship with your own work got a lot more complicated. Adobe wasn't just selling software anymore, they were selling a license to your own work. And in every boardroom in America, other executives were watching. They saw that steady, predictable stream of revenue, and they wanted in. And let's be honest, at first there wasn't much pain. I mean, there are times when a subscription makes sense. Newspapers and magazines have always worked this way because the news keeps happening. When Netflix started mailing DVDs, it was a miracle compared to late fees at the video store. When Spotify came along, it felt like a deal. Every song ever recorded for $10 a month? Sign me up. We were already inured to those too-long-to-read software agreements, or EULAs, that we mostly just clicked to accept automatically. We liked the convenience. We liked the auto-updates. We liked not having to store our growing and increasingly large piles of stuff. We traded autonomy and independence for convenience. And for a while, the trade felt worth it. But then the do-si-do stopped being a dance you joined and became a dance you couldn't leave. The problem is that the subscription model spread like weeds. It leaked out of services and into things. Now you're dying a death of 1,000 paper cuts. $1 here for cloud storage, $12 there for a fitness tracker, $20 for an AI model. You lose track. Suddenly, you're paying hundreds of dollars a month just to maintain the status quo. And the thing is, it's not about the $20. It's about the 20th $20. We've moved from necessary functions being ours forever to the necessity of us giving money to the opportunists every week, month, or year, without end. You don't own your movies, you're just renting them until the licensing deal expires. You don't own your books on your e-reader. You can't leave them in a little free library or sell them to a used ebook store. And then they got to the hardware. This is where it gets really evil. We're seeing companies make things so proprietary that you can't fix them yourself. John Deere tractors that require a special company-tied service center just to clear an error code. Apple phones that won't accept a new screen because the serial numbers don't match a database. It's a move back to the Ma Bell era where the company owns the rules and you just pay the rent. No, it's worse, because it isn't just one company doing it. The good news is that I think the subscription bubble is starting to find some eddies of relief. People are starting to push back. We're seeing rulings against companies like John Deere. We're seeing right-to-repair laws passing in state legislatures. We're seeing a revolt against the Adobe tax as people defect to software like Affinity or DaVinci. Tools where you can still, imagine this, just buy the thing and own it if it isn't already mostly free. We're starting to remember that ownership being settled is a form of freedom that confers to us independence from boardrooms and bean counters. The next time you see that I agree button or an offer for a low monthly fee, I think it's worth stopping to ask, am I paying for a service that adds value to my life? Or am I just bowing down to a modern version of the schoolyard bully taking my lunch money? Ownership isn't just about things. It's about control. It's about freedom. And I think it's about time we took our partner by the hand and started dancing in a different direction. What's the most ridiculous thing you've been asked to subscribe to lately? Share it with us in the comments. I'm curious if I'm just an old angry geezer or if you've noticed the same thing. I'm CJ, this is Geezer Gab, reminding you that liking is groovy and subscribing is far out. And in this case, it's actually free. And remember, they can't charge you for gumption, which, when used passionately, is priceless. See you next time.